Awesome. Alrighty, so we should be live. It looks like it's pulling through now. All right, dude, we're on.
All right, we are on phone here. So hey, I'm excited. I am Dr. Justin Moseley, the Mindset Doctor, taking over Tenure Tuesday here with Nick Cavuoto, because I was actually talking to John Lee Dumas not too long ago, creator of Entrepreneur on Fire podcast. If you haven't heard that, check out John Lee Dumas. But he was telling me, I asked him, I was like, what was one of the biggest lessons you learned along the way? And he said for him, the biggest mistake that he made was everybody he interviewed, they were the expert, and nobody got to see him as the expert. So really, I got to thinking about your interviews. You've interviewed a lot of great experts, and I was honored to be one of those. So thank you for having me. But I want people to see you because you are such an expert, and we get to see glimpses of it here and there. But I really want to dive deep. And I was thinking, kind of like, and this might show my age. VH1 used to do Behind the Music. Nick, did you see Behind the Music back in the
Oh
day? Or are
yeah,
you too
dude.
young for
Hell
that? And
yeah.
if you're listening and you know what Behind the Music is, give me a yes in the comments, because Behind the Music, I loved it because you got to go see the behind the scenes with the artist or with the band and hear about what it was like on the road or why they wrote certain songs. And you really got to know them on an intimate level. So for you guys, that's what I want to take over Nick's page so you guys can get to know him. Because I mean, I got to know you. When did we meet? How many years has it been now? I was trying.
2007, 18. It was one or the other.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was 2017 because we had just moved
that's
to
what I
that
believe. It was
clinic.
17.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, and yeah, I was actually referred by a friend of ours that Nick was doing. That was when he back in the agency days. Nick was running his agency, and I got down, flew to Nashville. You and Jeremy came down and did some filming, did some stuff at the office, but I really got to know Nick behind the scenes and got to know him as a person. And I remember telling you even back then, I was like, I know we're working together here, but God's called us to do something bigger together. And it's really because I got to know your heart and who you are as a person. And it was really hard trying to come up with your bio and like figure out, hey, how do I describe Nick? Because you've done so many great things. So let's see. I wrote this. So I was trying to narrow. Nick is the owner of Cavuoto X. It's a media company. He works with passionate entrepreneurs who are committed to pushing forward and create a huge impact. And I've seen that he's helped me do that personally as well. And he's a speaker, he's an entrepreneurial mentor, human potential expert, specializes in deep coaching, personal branding, and transformational leadership. Nick is known for his intuitive ability to unmute people and build relationships. Again, that's something I've seen personally and something that I want people to see more of that from you because you have this huge intuitive side. And in the relationships, a lot of people have quoted Nick now, relationships are rocket ships, which is one of his great sayings that everybody goes with. And Nick partners with high impact entrepreneurs to make their business smarter, stronger, more successful in order to unlock their maximum impact in the world. He is the founder and CEO of Tenure Brands, a digital agency where he created the personal content machine. It's a simple and effective way to create content and engagement with your audience in as little as 1 hour per month. And for me, I use it personally. It's saved me tons of time thinking about what content I need to create. In 1 hour, they can create an entire month's worth of content. So that's been a huge blessing. So Nick, he's generated 1.5 billion, that's billion with a B, digital impressions. And with his smart marketing method, he's captured over 700,000 leads in multiple verticals and industries, over 100 million in direct client revenue, managed 1.3 billion in products. Nick, thank you for allowing me to take over your channel so people can see you as the expert.
Yeah. Whenever people read that stuff, what the hell they're talking about? But I've learned to say thank you. I appreciate you as the star and as a supporter that you are, as the creator that you are. there's all these different aspects of us as individuals, and for you, you've showed up to be that person, not just professionally, but you've also done it in my personal life. And so I'm forever grateful, man. So thanks for doing this. Thanks for being here. And thanks for swinging the idea. You're just like, hey, this is what I want to do. So I'm going to do it. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do it. And
Absolutely, because even just reading through your bio, that's not something we do for ourselves. It's like
correct.
that's weird when we talk about ourselves like that. But I want people to know that about you. Because too often we see the highlight reels, we don't see behind the scenes. And again, that's what I loved about the Behind the Music show, because we got to see what really happened. What were their personal lives like? What happened there? So for you, a lot of people can see the stuff that you're doing now, and you make great content. The stuff that I read is amazing, and people might think, you know what, he's really talented. This must have came easy for him. But I know for you, let's go way back. Let's start. A lot of people may or may not know that you actually failed out of college twice. So explain, how did failing out of college, how was that one of the biggest blessings for what you do now?
Yeah. So when I remember when I graduated high school, I the picture up in upstate New York, and whole graduating class, I'm sitting there with aviators on, I was a bit of a playboy, and at the same, I was really focused on having fun. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, what the next chapter looked like. So I went to a junior for a semester, and I did okay. Junior more lax, anyways. And junior college, I remember I was hanging around with like just really the wrong group of friends, like post high school. We lived in a small city, a medium sized city, like just over 1 million people. So I knew a lot of people from a lot of different areas. And so I started hanging out with a lot of them who were going to school, and it was just party central, a lot of cocaine, a lot of alcohol, and a lot of bad decisions, primarily. And so I just found myself in a position of going, these people, like, I just need to like get, and if I can do that successfully, then I can self. And my very best friend went to the University of in the same way. He was in a frat and all this stuff. I need to get my life back on track. So we both decided to go to this Palm Beach, Florida, Palm Beach Atlantic University. And so I made a decision to do that. I paid my own way. At that time, it's like 2006. It's like 11% interest, like my position to be able to do that for me. They also told me they didn't want me to go, and you can pay your own way, which for me was and I'm like, all right, I'll show you. And in the first week before classes even started, I got in trouble for drinking. Like before classes even, it was the early days of, everyone's getting their Facebook account, who's new at the college, because we were in college at that time. And so then everyone starts publishing photos, and then they're tagging the school and all this stuff, right? So then, it's a private Christian university, rather conservative school. And so it starts getting like circulated, and then the school picks it up, and they're like, okay, this person is tagged. We can see their face. We know they're a student, and they're underage. So I immediately, when I like, my brother got in trouble at our private Christian school, and I started on my back for doing nothing. It was the same feeling people of having a target on my back thing. But it felt like, come on, this was not a huge deal, right? So that was like the beginning of like, where we have moments of where we feel like we're targeted. Like someone has selected us to be the common enemy of what, belief system or their thoughts or feelings are. And so right out of the gate, I had a chip on my shoulder of like, well, screw these people. I'm going to do whatever I want. And so, first semester there, I mean, it was really rough. And then second semester, 1.6, and they were like, listen, you can't come back here. And so, so basically, I did one semester again at the junior college, but I did it online. Then got back into this, failed out again, even worse. I mean, I think I went to like 5 classes. Now, mind you, for both of those years I went to that college, it was like 60 with nothing to show for, with income that was measurable towards anything. And it was November of 2007. I remember calling my dad and just going like, Dad, I need to come home. This is November 5th, 2007. And I remember that day vividly. And he's like,
Yeah.
open. So like, if that's what you need to do, buddy, drive home. My brother flew down and we drove home together. I got a, I got a speeding ticket on the way home going 125. It's like I couldn't escape me.
Mm.
Like this uncertain, no vision was the thing that I was running from. And realized that that was the actual problem. And so failing out of college and developing an unfair advantage because of it, I realized that without God on my side and without a vision that I'm by with him, that life is meaningless. And so when I got home, my dad said, you know, there's one thing you can do, like, because you don't have a job, you don't have everything for school, but I've been going to this church. Awesome if you could, like, just go volunteer there. They need help. And so I remember meeting Jeremy Blowski in 7 and him going like, hey, and for this hilarious guy.
Yes.
Hey, and funny enough, the first thing that I did was for that church, and that's how in what is currently today like the entrepreneurial world or podcasting or creating content or whatever is in 2000 from a guy who's rather unassuming making a very simple invitation that to him was really challenging to do. He's a rather introverted guy, and that was it, man. Like that,
Yeah.
how it started. This whole unfair advantage was knowing that once I got into a lane and surrounded by the right people in the right environment,
Yeah.
and
Now,
so the failure, I'm so glad it
yeah.
happened.
Now, how did a New York guy end up Palm Beach? What was the decision there?
Honestly, my buddy, his senior year of high school, his parents moved to South Florida to start a new business and stuff. So he moved down there with them, and he was at the University of Florida. So he was the only together like when we were kids and stuff. But he was the only guy who like was truly like my best friend. Now he's a like top 10 lawyer in the U.S. I mean, he's freaking extremely well accomplished. And he was just the one person who I knew I could trust, that I could be around, but that would challenge me to not live an average life. We were homies. Like he was just that blue, you know, like that, like he was my guy. And so we both felt the same thing. And I think sometimes in life, like when you get surrounded by the right people, you want to be around people who are up to something, you know, who are attempting to do something better, to do better, to position them towards a better future. And that was the reason why, just simply because my friend was there. And I was, you know, and my story is that, you know, friends were closer than family. You know, family was rather, at that time in my life, it was rather uncertain, and I didn't have like all the stability. I was with my friends, man, that was everything.
Yeah. Now, I've heard you talk about building community using social media is a lot like building the church. So I'm curious, what did you learn in the church world, learning how to use social media to build community?
Well, you know, a lot of people will hear me. It's funny because I hosted over 1,000 live events, which is basically public speaking every single weekend and times throughout the week. And a lot of times it's 5 times on a weekend. So like we had a night service and 4 services on a Sunday. So I've been around public speakers my whole life. My very first memory, that is like a unique one that assigned meaning, right? It's not a trauma or it's not like a huge win, but it's just like just a everyday life. I was sleeping under a pew. I was old, sleeping under a pew at like a middle of a evangelical revival. So like that's what I grew up in.
Yeah.
So when I like think about like, you know, EQ and understanding, it's because I grew up in an explosive home and I figured out how to, and I figured out how to like show up the way I needed to and put on camera when I needed to and to remove it when I needed to. But the idea of public speaking and being around people of transformation was very similar, of where like I learned through osmosis. You put me inside of some type of environment and I can find the temperature, I can find what's working, I can find what isn't, and it's autonomous. It's just part of my unconscious. So very much like I would inside of that church and I would see speakers come up who were extremely dynamic, like just blow the roof off the place. And I watched I saw people come up who were disruptors, and they would actually try to the process of other people doing their greatest work. Someone who came up and was very gentle and soft spoken, feel the emotion that wanted to erupt out of them, but they didn't early enough. I've seen it all. And so, I mean, I'm 13 years old. I had to walk out one day, which is so crazy because my parents were like, what is he picking up on? Like, because they knew I was intuitive, but at that point they knew I was different because it was such like disruption, like disruptive feeling in my soul of this person who was up there. And we ended up finding out this guy, like all these things were happening, and I could feel it without even having a conversation. First name, I had to physically leave the room because I was irritated by their presence of what they were projecting. And so that's where like the idea, like first is just that I've been around public speakers for over 30 years and I'm 34 years old. So every weekend, seen it all. I've watched it all. That's why I'm good at alliteration, is because pastors use alliteration a lot. And so the dance of communication styles, I've just experienced it. So if you fast forward into 2006, 7, and then starting to actually work within a church, again, it's like I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I just like showed up and was like, I can help out with some of these things. And I remember I ran my first Facebook ad in 2009. It was a global Facebook ad, 1,000 member church. So we had a pretty good cash flow as far as over the world. And out of nowhere, I remember the first week, I think over 500 or 600 viewers, international, one little time slot of an hour. And we did that for like $1 or something. I mean, it was unbelievable. No one even knew there were ads at that. So again, I just was given permission early to trial and to fail or succeed. And that was the best thing when it came to like understanding social media, was just being given permission with someone else's money to figure it out early. Thing was building community. When you have a church of 10,000 people, and you think about the aspect of community and how community, it's these small pockets of people, pockets to 20. And when I did move on life back to God, and I did that in a small group environment, it happens around a table and not off a stage, that transformation in people's life takes place. So that's mentor mind. Mentor mind is it's a way for us to gather together and to have honest conversations about where we're at in life without judgment, without pontification, without being overly facilitated. Biggest challenge you're facing in your life or business right now, and it taught for where they're at. Judgment inside of the thing that I've ever seen in my life, because church is healthy. You bring people there who have and who need an answer to something that our carnal hand. And it's an injustice to me when people are not in a place of being in love for where they're at, no matter their background, their gender, their age, but to be valued and appreciated and seen for who they are. I don't have all the answers, but I know that I can be a conduit to point them back to something greater. And I think that's part of the greatest reward.
Absolutely. And you said something really important, that you had permission. And a lot of people are waiting for that permission, somebody's validation for them to go for it. And even in my own way, I switched from being in the clinic to creating an online brand and going out it. Like, you encouraged me, basically gave me the permission to go for it. What advice would you give to somebody that's waiting for that permission?
When we're kids, like our parents give us permission on a field trip or to do whatever. Our parents don't give us permission to do the things that are our greatest work. You got to give it to yourself. And you just got to step into it and be like, you know what? I'm going to forge my mom's signature. The difference is you have the creator on your side, and the creator is, I want you to do your greatest work and wire you in your own way. And so for me, that's what I love giving people, is I permission slip for them. I think what I do objectify their lack of belief in a greater capacity to see further down the line than they do. And that's part of having a spiritual gift of the ability to have and also interpretations and impressions on what's going to happen. It just is what it is. If you want to have a conversation, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to. But at 12 years old, I remember being in our new house, and this lady, this very woo lady, came over to our house and she painted the word prophet on my wall. And it was a realization that that's part of my greatest gifting is to understand, to go that's not mine and to declare what God says is going to happen. It's kind of a strange thing, but I do that in people's lives. Just got a guy who called me last night and the same thing happened. Well, I really want to get out there and I really want to do my thing, but I don't know. And I bulldoze. I put my shoulder down time and I give them the belief that they need through transfer of belief, because everyone that I know, they need to do their greatest work. They don't need more skill. You don't need you don't need more mini courses. You just need to believe in yourself that what you want to accomplish is belief is a miracle. It's a beautiful thing. This ability to try to get someone to believe in more than they did 5 minutes before I talked to them gives them the audacity to actually go chase. Really trying to give people permission. They do need to give. Trying to do is objectify and remove every barrier and every objection and every hindrance and every frustration and every doubt that they can't do it, and replace it with an undeniable faith that they can.
Yep. Comes down to that faith and belief. Absolutely. So you had your experience in the church world doing social media. You got permission. You started doing it. How did that translate? One, just the knowledge that you learned, but then also your intuitive ability, your prophetic ability. How has that translated into digital marketing that you do today?
Yeah. So, social media specifically and how it translates into business is I bring two things. Business acumen, because when I left to VC firms, I went to medical device in Fortune 500, and I had the desire to develop a hard skill. I knew much less than the people who I was working alongside of. I just also knew, intuitive feeling, what to do at the right time. I don't know how to explain it. It's a very strange thing. So if you want to follow my cloud, but if there's a better way for us to do this expenditure for paid media, they were print ad, $10,000 a month in a print ad. And so for me, I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And I took social, because I just figured out that that's where people spend time. And so once I knew that people spent time in social media, bubble sheets inside of a magazine, that's when let's take the spend from something that's not working and put it into something that is. And we took $100,000 of spend that was happening inside of a magazine with bubble sheets for leads, getting 3 to 5 a month, and we applied it into social media, getting. And for me, again, that was of where confidence and competence showed up in my life in a unique way. I'm sure Justin will be back in a second, so I'm just going to talk to you guys. So that's huge. And developing that business acumen was a part of me just understanding that, again, confidence and competence. If I say I can do it and then I go do it, that's success. It's aim and achievement. The ability to say, you know what, this is what I want to achieve. This is what I'm going to achieve. And now I achieved it. Now I have blind faith when it comes to my hard skill. And that's something that all of you need to look back on and take credit for, as the successes that you had in your life. I did that through having to fill out a lot of resumes trying to get my career advanced. I'm always trying to find the nuggets and the stories about what I've been able to succeed at and what I've been able to be successful at, so that I can have that next opportunity. And so that was really the story around business acumen. Because I was behind, because I was coming from an industry that was not specifically relatable to business, nonprofit and ministry world, I had to work that much harder than everybody else in order to achieve, and in order to be seen and to be appreciated and to give a gift. And so that's what I did. Now the underneath superpower, it's kind of like the right arm is the intuitive one, and the left arm is the practical one, let's say. So the practical one got developed for years, and this one had been developed for my whole life. And so when I put them both together, that's where I found a lot of strength, was in one part being business acumen and the other part being spiritual awareness, and being able to put those two things together. See, sometimes we can't solve a simple problem I call a 3D problem, which is just literally a very practical touch it, feel it problem, like writing a book, right? It's like I can touch and feel and see this. Sometimes the answers to our questions are in reality. So if 3D is touch it, feel it, so that's more like feel it, and it's kind of like more of the deeper feelings around things, the intuitive part. Then that 5D level is a spiritual part. And so I just made a decision to go like, you know what? I'm going to solve problems by asking God for help. And a lot of times that's, I think, what we need to do. We need to find ourselves going like, God, I don't know how to solve this problem. Will you help me? And it's amazing what happens when he shows up, and he does. And there's a great book, Too Busy Not to Pray. And that's essentially from is like, we spend so much time trying to solve, fighting against things that are very natural, and yet the fighting is not right here. It's in a different atmosphere, a different dimension. It's access to divinity for us to be able to collaborate with our co-creator and solve problems here on earth, leveraging the power of heaven. And I think that is something that needs to be talked about more. In fact, I think that's work. So that's how I'm leveraging what I've learned to be able to apply it into business. There's a lot of ways for us to solve problems. But when I ask someone to seek for or to find forgiveness in their own heart when they've been trampled on, when they lost a loved one, no seemingly reason of where they go like, God, why do bad? That's a tall order. Usually when you ask like that, to seek forgiveness, they want to punch you in the face. But the idea is that anxiety is a direct root for most people of a lack of forgiveness. Because the amount of anchor, like that is required for us to hold on to frustration and anger and resentment, it terrorizes our soul. People find a solution where they can give it to God. Make a simple decision in their daily life to like, well, I'll let it have a better business. I know this is something that will actually heal it forever versus really distract them. And so what I learned a lot about people. This transformation lies in our ability to connect with our creator. And I don't really care. Anybody can go toe to toe with me, and that's fine. You don't have to agree with me. Out on life's greatest gift, and also the most you could ever have in your business is having God on your side.
So true. Now, and if you're watching the replay, put #replay so we know that you're watching. And if you have any questions for Nick, because I have a lot more questions we're going to be diving in, but we're running close on time. So I'm going to ask you one more question here. But would love to hear you guys. What questions do you want Nick to answer? And we're going to do this again next week because there's so much more behind the scenes that I want you to see. But Nick, to wrap this up, what is one of the biggest mistakes you see people making on social media today?
The thing that pops in my mind is like, I don't think I've ever built a funnel. Like I really don't. I don't think I've ever done over 100 million in revenue. It doesn't mean my ways.
One funnel away.
Just one funnel away from board. For most people, you said this was gonna work. I put my whole life savings in. It's that people relationships, and I said that fast, but there's a lot loaded in there, intentionally, so intention, and relationships. I've always said flow over funnels. And what I mean is just kind of like doing the dance. It's just like relationships. Architect a true relationship. You, if you want to hang out with them, you call them. And if you don't, then you don't. Them day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. Then you just ask them if they want to hang out. I feel like funnels are turning into like super AI, where again people are wired. So when you don't do that stuff, people notice it. It's an unfair advantage. We try to over architect like a pickup artist how we're going to generate our new clients, and it lacks authenticity, it lacks truth, it lacks intimacy, and it lacks intention. Transactional. And I'm just not in the world to build relationships. I'm here to help one person 100%. And if God gives me access to impact the world, I'm fine with that. But there's no reason of why that has to happen. But my lack of need for the stage is in the world, because the abusive power of people stages in order for them to manipulation tactics and oppression over others. One of the reasons why God will allow me to take a stage and turn it into a living room and allow deep presence, the presence of just being with them and seeing them for who they are, start generating something inside of them that develops a deeper sense of faith and acceptance of what's possible for them. So at the end of the mistake that people are leveraging on social media is their intention is wrong. They're not here for the right reason. And there's nothing wrong with making money. And there's nothing, wanting to build a great business or with even building a funnel. But what matters is, and just like anything else in life, when it comes to the experience, the greatest disconnection is I think there are way more people out no desire to do those things. I think people. And so I'm like, then just help people. Just show up and love on them. Take the 5 minutes that it takes to pick somebody, or to pick up, your app, send someone a kind message. And everyone said I'm supposed to work with you. Now listen, Frank Kern says, I don't build a business based on miracles. For people. And so you're in one side and oppression and frustration and anxiety and anger, on the opposite, abundance and generosity. The miracles in the middle. And that's a transition point between where you're at today and where you want to be. And so for people who are going like, honestly, I just want to be of contribution and I have the right heart, those people with me, they excel massively. But if you want your next frame, 10-step, 3-step, not going to happen here. So
Yeah, and you're so right with the intention, because I remember, and I probably shared it when you interviewed me on Tenure Tuesday, but I wasn't even trying to build a business. I just wanted to start putting out content that helped people, and you helped get me out in front of the right people, and the people came, and the people bought, and the business was created, all because that intention was there of wanting just to serve people and to help people. So, yeah.
Process kills profit when it's established too soon. Main thing is people try to over architect what they do and how they clarity. That's not what I'm saying, but they try to over process. Just like with food, the better the raw and organic garden, the better it is for you. But when you over process it, it's for you. And so process kills soon. What I like to see people do is be that they're solving, be really clear about the heart and the and talk about it, and to add a 0 to the value of what it is that they're creating, and also the price of what they're creating. So it's easy for me to go like, I can charge, well, if I'm going to make them $1 million and they get a 10x ROI, why would they say no? We had a client, his first month in tenure, $5 million off of LinkedIn. And so, what can you guys do? I have like multiple companies, and we a contract in a week. Why? We showed up within. We served him well. We followed through. And then he's like, "What else can you guys do for me?" Be a fucking good person. That's why I wear the damn shirt. That's the process. Do the right thing. It always wins. And so, I don't know. At some point, I'm sure something will pop where all this nonsense of over architecting. I mean, think about it. Like, be at a mixer and architecting, their ability to have a conversation with you. No one wants to do that. And funnels are established on scarcity. They're built around what you need and how you're in lack. It's not out of abundance. The abundance messaging doesn't work as well, which is why you can't over automate it. So that real feisty about all that, but the bottom line is, you hear nice guy finishes. I think it's that the people who do the right thing, the right outcome comes to them. And I don't know, I've just seen it in my life. A lot of the nice guys finish last have had a very interesting point. And the ones who saw the greatness in the person who is unassuming. You think of Jedis and you look at Yoda. He's small and he's unassuming. And he's the most universe. Do not underestimate your thinking. It's too insignificant, that it doesn't matter. Measure up, that it's not as cute or as attractive as brand or their messaging or their product or their offer or the just be you, and expect off the table. Better is an open hand than a that is when your hands are open, you can not only give, but you can also receive. And yet we hold on to things like death grip of like, if this doesn't work, like my whole life's going to just give it to me. I remember asking God a 20 and I said, God, increase the quality of my problems. Wasn't that interesting? 3 months later, and COVID hit and the world, kind of flipped upside down. But that's my prayer is I just want to solve. I don't want to solve the same ones as yesterday. I like to solve one problem one time and then move on with it and don't have to deal with it again. That's it, man.
Yeah. And dude, thank you for allowing me to go deep with you. We're going to go deeper in all of this. And let's give a shout out. I see Tony in the comments. What's up, Tony?
What up, Tony?
And now Mike Zale. What's up? And actually, Tony, that just reminds me, because in speaking to Nick's audience, this is the kind of guy Nick is. We were scheduled to do this like an hour later, I think it was, but Nick messaged me and he's like, hey, Tony's got something going on. I really want to be there to support him. Can we move the time? I said, absolutely, because that's the kind of heart Nick has. He's like, man, I want to be there for my friends. I want to support them. I want to make sure that I'm there for them. So I want to give you props for that too. That's the side that people don't get to see of you. But again, watching the replay, drop any questions in there too, because I know you guys want to know more from Nick. We're going to do this again next Tuesday. But I am Dr. Justin Moseley with Tenure Tuesday. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Nick, for allowing me to do this to honor you, man.
Much love, brother. Thank you so much for doing it. It means a ton.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks. Alrighty.